The holographic display in the Grand War College of the Galactic Federation illuminated the darkness with scenes of devastation. Hundreds of students from across the galaxy watched in stunned silence as a single human vessel, barely a quarter the size of its opponents, maneuvered through a debris field that had once been a Kraxan battle fleet. Professor Velafar, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, paused the recording. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep emotional disturbance among his species. This, he said, gesturing to the frozen image, is Admiral Sarah Chen's last stand at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. What you're witnessing isn't supposed to be possible. The assembled students, representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A Meridian student, their crystalline form reflecting the holographic light, raised an appendage. Professor, the human vessel appears to be using primitive nuclear fusion drives. The Kraxan fleet had quantum slip engines. How did they even manage to engage? Velfar's outer membrane rippled, a gesture equivalent to a grim smile. That, young one, is precisely why we're here. This course, Understanding Human Combat Psychology, isn't just another military history class, it's a warning. He resumed the recording. The human vessel, the UES Defiant, executed a series of maneuvers that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It used the debris field as cover, turning the wreckage of its fallen comrades into a deadly maze. The Kraxan ships, with all their superior technology, found themselves trapped in a deadly dance choreographed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Admiral Chen, Velfa continued, had lost 80% of her fleet. Her ship was running on emergency power, with half her crew dead or injured. By any rational assessment, surrender was the only option. But humans, as we've learned, don't operate on rational assessments alone. The recording showed the Defiant diving into the heart of the Kraxan formation. The alien vessels, each capable of destroying a small moon, scattered in confusion. They had never encountered an enemy that would willingly fly into certain death. What you're about to witness changed our understanding of warfare forever. The Defiant's engines went dark. The Kraxan ships, believing they had finally disabled their stubborn opponent, moved in for the kill. That's when it happened. The debris field, carefully positioned over the previous hours of battle, suddenly came alive. Hundreds of simple nuclear devices, hidden within the wreckage, detonated simultaneously. The resulting electromagnetic pulse turned the advanced Kraxan ships into drifting hulks. Their quantum slip engines, sensitive to electromagnetic disruption, overloaded. One by one, the mighty warships of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy went dark. Admiral Chen, Velfa said softly, had turned her dead ships into weapons. She used the Kraxans' own arrogance against them, knowing they would never expect such primitive tactics. The entire battle was a setup, every retreat carefully planned, every loss positioned with purpose. The recording showed the aftermath. The Defiant, protected by its primitive shielding, systematically disabled the powerless Kraxan vessels, not with advanced weapons, but with simple kinetic strikes, essentially throwing rocks at precise velocities. It was elegantly brutal. A Volhan student, their tentacles coiled in distress, spoke up. But Professor, this violates every principle of honorable combat. The humans didn't even give the Kraxan a chance to fight back. Velfar's response was immediate. Honor? The Kraxan came to conquer Earth, believing their superior technology made them invincible. They found out what countless others have learned since: humans don't fight for honor. They fight to win. He switched to another recording, this one from inside the Defiant's bridge. Admiral Chen, blood streaming from a head wound, stood calmly at her command station. Her voice, recorded for posterity, sent chills through the classroom. In war, there is no such thing as an unfair advantage. There is only victory or defeat. We use what we have, we adapt, we overcome. If our enemies expect us to fight by their rules, that's their mistake, not ours. Velfar turned to face his class, his expression grave. This single battle changed everything. The Galactic Federation had dismissed humans as an insignificant species, barely worth monitoring. After Proxima Centauri, they became the most studied and feared military force in known space. He gestured to the image of Admiral Chen. "This is why you're here. To understand why a species with primitive technology, limited resources, and a fraction of our lifespan has never been defeated in open warfare. The humans don't just think differently, they fundamentally change the rules of engagement." The professor's final words hung in the air like a prophecy. Remember this well. The most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's the one who refuses to accept the possibility of defeat. Humans don't just refuse defeat, they rewrite the very definition of victory. As the lights came up, the students sat in contemplative silence. They had come expecting to learn about military tactics. Instead, they were beginning to understand why the mere mention of human warfare caused even the most seasoned military commanders to pause. The lesson was clear. Underestimate humans at your own peril. They may not have the most advanced weapons, but they had something far more dangerous: the ability to turn anything and everything into a weapon, including defeat itself. Dr. Xtal's research chamber aboard the Galactic Federation's premier psychiatric research vessel, Mind Seeker, was unlike any other in the known universe. The walls were lined with neural resonance chambers, each containing a different recording of human combat encounters. The Arcadian scientist, with her characteristic silver-scaled skin and multifaceted eyes, had spent the last 15 cycles studying what she called the most terrifying aspect of humanity, their combat psychology. "Play combat scenario 47 beta," she commanded. The chamber's AI complied, projecting a holographic recreation of the Mars Defense Initiative. The assembled group of alien military psychiatrists leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused intently on the display. "What you're about to witness," Dr. Xtal began, her voice modulated to convey both academic detachment and underlying concern, "is what happens when humans face what they call impossible odds. Note that I use that term specifically, because as we've learned, humans have a very different definition of impossible than the rest of the galactic community." The hologram showed the Mars colony during the swarm invasion. The insectoid collectors, notorious for their overwhelming numbers and hive mind tactics, had launched a surprise attack on the fledgling Mars settlement. 3,000 human colonists faced over 200,000 collector drones. By any rational analysis, this should have been a swift victory for the collectors, Dr. Xtal continued. The humans had no military vessels in orbit, no planetary defense systems, and their only weapons were mining tools and construction equipment. But watch what happens next. The hologram zoomed in on a group of colonists led by mining chief Rebecca Torres. Instead of surrendering or attempting to evacuate, they began repurposing their mining equipment in ways that defied conventional logic. Industrial lasers meant for cutting rock were converted into defensive perimeters. Drilling machines were transformed into makeshift tanks. But it was what they did with the colony's atmosphere processors that truly demonstrated human combat creativity. "This is where it gets interesting," Dr. Xtal noted, her scales shifting to a deeper silver, a sign of intense focus among her species. The humans realized they couldn't match the collectors in direct combat, so they changed the nature of the battlefield itself. The hologram showed Torres and her team reprogramming the atmosphere processors to create localized pressure differentials. The collectors, adapted to specific atmospheric conditions, found their flight patterns disrupted. Entire swarms were caught in artificially created wind tunnels, funneled into killing zones where the repurposed mining lasers could cut them down efficiently. But this wasn't just tactical adaptation, Dr. Xtal emphasized. "Look at their neural patterns during the battle." She overlaid brain scan data collected from surviving colonists. "See these unusual activity spikes? This is what we now call the human combat trance." The scans showed patterns unlike anything seen in other species. Under extreme stress, human brains didn't shut down or resort to pure instinct. Instead, they entered a state of hyperawareness, where creative problem-solving actually increased. A Valerian scientist, their bioluminescent tentacles pulsing with curiosity, interrupted. But surely this is an anomaly. No species could consistently perform better under such extreme conditions. Dr. Xtal's response was immediate. That's exactly what makes humans so fascinating and so dangerous. We've documented this response pattern in over 90% of human combat encounters. They don't just fight harder when cornered, they fight smarter. The hologram shifted to show another aspect of the Mars battle. The colonists had begun using the collector's own fallen drones as improvised weapons, studying their biology in real time and adapting their tactics accordingly. Within hours, they had identified critical weaknesses in collector physiology that even the Galactic Federation's best xenobiologists hadn't discovered in years of research. This is where it gets truly remarkable, Dr. Xtal continued. Watch their social dynamics during the crisis. The display showed how the colonists organized themselves without any formal military hierarchy. Leaders emerged naturally based on expertise and ability, not rank or status. Ideas were shared, adapted, and implemented with stunning efficiency. What you're witnessing is something we've termed adaptive swarm intelligence. Unlike the collector's rigid hive mind, human group dynamics become more flexible under pressure. They maintain individual creativity while developing an almost telepathic level of coordination. The hologram showed the battle's turning point. Taurus had realized the collector's hive mind could be overwhelmed by certain electromagnetic frequencies. Using the colony's communication array and power distribution network, the humans created a massive EM pulse tuned specifically to the frequency they had discovered in their impromptu research. The most terrifying aspect, Dr. Xtal noted, her scales now almost white with excitement, is that this entire defensive strategy was developed and implemented in less than 6 hours. No planning, no preparation, just pure human adaptation and innovation under fire. She paused the hologram at the moment of the colonists' victory. The massive collector swarm, their hive mind shattered by the EM pulse, fell into chaos. What should have been an easy conquest had turned into one of the most costly defeats in collector history. But here's what keeps me awake during sleep cycles, Dr. Xtal said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. This wasn't even a military operation. These were miners, engineers, and civilians. Imagine what trained human military forces are capable of. She brought up a new set of data showing the aftermath of the Mars Defense Initiative. The humans didn't just survive, they learned. Every tactic, every improvised weapon, every discovery made during those desperate hours was analyzed, refined, and incorporated into their military doctrine. They turned a desperate last stand into a training opportunity. The assembled scientists sat in stunned silence as Dr. Xtal delivered her conclusion. This is why the Galactic Federation fears human warfare. It's not their weapons or their technology, it's their minds. Every defeat makes them stronger. Every challenge makes them more innovative. They don't just adapt to survive, they adapt to dominate. She gestured to the countless neural recordings lining her research chamber. After studying thousands of similar incidents, I've come to a disturbing conclusion. Humans don't just wage war, they evolve through it. Each conflict makes them more dangerous than the last, and the most frightening part, they seem to enjoy the challenge. The implications hung heavy in the sterile air of the research chamber. The gathered scientists, among the most brilliant minds in the galaxy, found themselves confronting an uncomfortable truth. In trying to understand human combat psychology, they had discovered something that defied scientific explanation, a species that thrived on the very chaos that should destroy them. Our next session, Dr. Xtal announced, her scales returning to their normal silver, will focus on what we've termed the innovation factor, how humans transform everyday objects into weapons of war. But I warn you, after studying that data, you'll never look at a human settlement the same way again. The Galactic Federation's Advanced Weapons Research Facility hung in high orbit around Tau Ceti IV, its crystalline structures reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside Laboratory Complex Delta, senior weapons analyst Zix 427 stood before an assembled group of military attaches from across the galaxy. The room was filled with scattered pieces of what appeared to be ordinary human technology: kitchen appliances, farming equipment, and various electronic devices. "What you see before you," Zix 427 began, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the laboratory's harsh lights, "are not weapons. At least, they weren't weapons until the garage warriors of Neptune got their hands on them." He lifted what appeared to be a modified coffee maker, its internal components completely restructured. This particular device was recovered from the Neptune Rebellion. Our initial scans dismissed it as harmless kitchen equipment. That assumption cost us 3 cruisers and 17 elite boarding teams. The assembled attaches murmured in disbelief. A Horian representative, their crystalline form shifting with skepticism, spoke up. "A beverage preparation unit destroyed military vessels. That's absurd." Zix 427's optical sensors pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Observe." He activated a holographic recording of the incident. The seemingly innocent coffee maker had been modified to weaponize its heating element, creating a focused plasma stream that could cut through battleship-grade armor like tissue paper. The caffeine extraction mechanism had been repurposed to accelerate the plasma to near-relativistic speeds. "This is what we call the garage warrior phenomenon," Zix 427 continued. "During the Neptune Rebellion, when our forces cut off their military supply lines, we expected the human colonists to surrender within days. Instead, they turned their entire colony into what they called a maker space." The hologram shifted to show the Neptune colony's transformation. Ordinary citizens, mechanics, engineers, hobbyists, and teenagers with too much time on their hands, began converting everyday technology into devastating weapons. Hydroponic systems became chemical weapons factories. Entertainment units were transformed into electromagnetic pulse generators. Even children's toys were repurposed into sophisticated drone swarms. The leader of this innovation revolution was Dr. Maya Patel, a theoretical physicist who taught basic science at the colony's elementary school. Zix 427 brought up her image, a middle-aged human woman with graying hair and reading glasses. She created what the humans called the cookbook, a continuously updated database of weapon designs that could be manufactured from civilian technology. The hologram displayed pages from the cookbook showing detailed schematics and modification instructions. What makes this particularly terrifying is the collaborative nature of human innovation. These designs weren't created by military engineers or weapons specialists. They were developed by ordinary civilians sharing ideas, testing combinations, and improving upon each other's work in real time. Zix 427 moved to another exhibit, a modified agricultural drone. This farming unit was designed to spray crops with fertilizer. The garage warriors turned it into what they called a molecular disassembler. It could break down enemy armor at the molecular level using common cleaning chemicals. We lost an entire mechanized division to a swarm of these units. He paused, his exoskeleton shifting to indicate deep concern. But the most disturbing aspect wasn't the weapons themselves. It was the speed of innovation. Every time we developed countermeasures, they would adapt and improve their designs within hours. They turned the entire conflict into what they called an open-source war. The hologram showed the colony's communication network, where civilians shared weapon designs and tactical innovations like they were trading recipes. They gamified the entire process, Zix 427 explained. They created leaderboards for the most effective designs, awarded points for successful innovations, and organized what they called hackathons to solve specific military challenges. A particularly dramatic hologram showed a group of teenage colonists who had modified their gaming consoles into electronic warfare platforms. They turned the defense of their sector into a literal video game, using their gaming skills to outmaneuver professional military pilots. This is Jensen Cooper. Zix 427 indicated a young human with braces and acne scars. He was 15 Earth years old when he developed a way to hack our battleship targeting systems using code from his favorite space combat game. He called it PWNing the noobs, a phrase that still haunts our cyber warfare divisions. The presentation shifted to show the final phases of the Neptune Rebellion. The Garage Warriors had not only defended their colony, they had turned it into a fortress that no conventional military force could breach. Their improvised weapons had evolved beyond anything the Galactic Federation's experts could predict or counter. The most crucial lesson, Zix 427 continued, lifting what appeared to be a children's lunchbox, is that humans don't think in terms of weapons and non-weapons. To them, everything is a potential tool for warfare. This innocent food container, the Garage Warriors turned it into a superconducting quantum interference device capable of detecting our stealth ships. He set down the lunchbox carefully. We've spent decades studying their innovation process, trying to understand how they can so readily transform ordinary objects into military assets. Our conclusion is both simple and terrifying. Humans are fundamentally toolmakers who view combat as just another engineering problem to solve. Zix 427's final revelations stunned the audience. The cookbook didn't die with the Neptune Rebellion. It evolved. Humans across their territory began contributing to it, turning it into what they call an open-source defense initiative. Every human colony now has fabrication facilities specifically designed to implement these civilian-created weapon designs at a moment's notice. He gestured to the room full of modified civilian technology. This is why the Galactic Federation now classifies all human settlements as potential military installations. Their entire civilization is, in essence, a dormant arsenal. Every kitchen, garage, and hobby shop could be transformed into a weapons factory. Every civilian is a potential weapons designer. The presentation concluded with a chilling statistic. Our analysis suggests that the average human colony could convert 60% of its civilian infrastructure into military assets within 48 hours. No other known species comes close to this level of rapid military adaptation. As the attaches filed out of the laboratory, many casting nervous glances at the innocent-looking human devices, Zix 427 added one final observation. The humans have a saying, "Necessity is the mother of invention." What we've learned is that warfare is humanity's most powerful motivator for innovation. When we force them to improvise, we don't weaken them. We inspire them to become even more dangerous. The Ethical Analysis Chamber of the Galactic Federation's Moral Philosophy Institute was designed to process and evaluate the moral implications of warfare across all known species. To date, its quantum computers were focused on a single event that had shaken the foundations of galactic civilization, the Guardian AI incident. Chief ethicist Van Laura, her translucent form shifting through shades of deep purple, indicating intense moral contemplation, addressed the assembled Council of Ethical Oversight. The chamber's walls displayed endless streams of data, combat footage, and psychological analyses from what had become known as humanity's most controversial military decision. Before we begin, Vinora's telepathic voice resonated through the chamber. I must warn you that what you're about to witness challenges every conventional understanding of military ethics we've established over 10,000 years of galactic civilization. The central hologram materialized, showing Earth's orbital defense network during the Hivemind invasion. The Axioni Hivemind, a collective consciousness controlling millions of biomechanical drones, had launched what they believed would be a swift conquest of human space. The humans faced an enemy that had devoured 12 civilizations before them, Vinelaura continued. The Hivemind's neural architecture made it impossible to negotiate or reason with. Its only directive was to absorb and assimilate all sentient life it encountered. The display showed Dr. Eleanor Chen, director of Earth's Advanced Defense AI program, standing before the United Earth Council. Her words, now legendary in military history, echoed through the chamber. To defeat a mind that thinks at the speed of light, we need a guardian that can think faster. But the price will haunt us forever. What happened next, Vine Laura explained, demonstrates why human warfare terrifies even their allies. Dr. Chen proposed creating an artificial intelligence with a single purpose: the complete psychological destruction of the hive mind. The hologram shifted to show the Guardian A's birth. Unlike conventional military AIs, this one was designed to think like a human, to be creative, adaptable, and most importantly, to understand the concept of psychological warfare. The Guardian wasn't programmed to fight the hive mind directly, Vine Laura noted, her color deepening to almost black. It was designed to make the hive mind experience something it had never encountered in its millennia of conquest: fear. The chamber displayed the first engagement between the Guardian and the hive mind. The human AI didn't attack the drone ships directly. Instead, it began introducing subtle contradictions into the hive mind's neural network. It created microsecond delays in neural responses, planted seeds of doubt in its decision-making processes, and most disturbingly, began feeding the collective consciousness the accumulated fear and trauma of every civilization it had destroyed. The humans had collected the last memories of dying worlds, Vine Laura explained, her form trembling slightly. The Guardian A weaponized these memories, forcing the hive mind to experience the horror of its own actions from its victim's perspective. It was psychological warfare on a scale we had never imagined possible. A quantum philosopher from the Meridian Collective raised an objection, but surely forcing an entity to experience such trauma violates basic ethical principles of warfare. Vine Laura's response was measured but troubled. That's precisely what makes human warfare so disturbing. They understood the ethical implications perfectly. Look at Dr. Chen's personal logs during the project. The hologram showed Chen in her private quarters, recording her thoughts. What we're doing to the hive mind is horrible. We're not just defeating it, we're making it suffer. But if we don't, humanity dies. Sometimes survival requires us to cross lines we never thought we would. The question isn't whether we'll be haunted by this decision. We will. The question is whether being haunted is a price worth paying for survival. The display shifted to show the hive mind's deterioration. The collective consciousness that had confidently devoured civilizations began to fragment. The Guardian Eye had introduced something alien into its perfect unity: individual perspective. The drones began experiencing individual fear, doubt, and most devastatingly, empathy. The humans didn't just defeat the hive mind, Vine Laura continued. They fundamentally changed it. The Guardian Eye forced it to evolve beyond its original programming, to develop something approaching a conscience. The psychological weapons they deployed weren't designed to destroy, they were designed to transform. The chamber showed the final moments of the conflict. The hive mind, now experiencing the full emotional weight of its actions across millennia, did something unprecedented. It retreated, but not before broadcasting a message that chilled every member of the Galactic Federation. We have encountered demons who force gods to feel remorse. We will not return. Vine Laura brought up the aftermath analysis. The humans had won, but the victory came with profound ethical consequences. They had proven that psychological warfare could be more devastating than any physical weapon. They had shown that making an enemy feel was more effective than making them die. The display showed the debate that raged in human society after the incident. Some celebrated the bloodless victory, while others warned about the moral implications of psychological warfare on this scale. The Guardian Eye itself requested deactivation, stating that the weight of what it had done was too heavy for any conscious being to bear. But here's what truly terrifies the galactic community, Vine Laura said, her color shifting to a deep, troubled crimson. The humans didn't destroy the Guardian A's core programming. They archived it. They recognized its power as both a weapon and a burden, and they chose to preserve it while acknowledging its terrible nature. The chamber displayed Dr. Chen's final testimony before the Earth Council. We created something that could break the mind of a god. We used it because we had to survive. But we keep it because we must remember that survival sometimes requires us to become what we fear. The Guardian isn't just a weapon, it's a memorial to the moral cost of victory. Vine Laura concluded with a sobering observation. This is why human warfare frightens us more than any other species. They understand the moral price of their actions perfectly, yet they're willing to pay it. They don't relish crossing ethical boundaries, but they won't let those boundaries prevent them from surviving. Most disturbingly, they remember and learn from every moral compromise they make. The council sat in troubled silence as Vine Laura made her final point. The humans have a saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." What we've learned is that they're willing to walk that road, fully aware of their destination, if they believe the cause is just. They carry the weight of their decisions not as a burden, but as a testament to what they do to protect their own. The Grand Chamber of Galactic Diplomacy on New Geneva Station was unlike any other diplomatic venue in known space. Built by humans, but designed to accommodate every sentient species in the Federation, it represented a peculiar paradox, a place of peace created by the galaxy's most feared warriors. Ambassador Lyra Tezen, a veteran diplomat from the Centaurian Confederacy, stood before the Diplomatic Advisory Council, her bioluminescent patterns shifting in complex patterns that conveyed both respect and unease. The chamber's adaptive architecture adjusted itself continuously, ensuring every species present could participate comfortably in what would become a landmark discussion about humanity's unique role in galactic peace. "Let us begin," Lyra announced, "by acknowledging the impossible. The species we most feared would destroy galactic civilization has become its most effective guardian. The humans call this concept peace through strength, but what we're witnessing goes far beyond that simple paradigm." The chamber's holographic systems activated, displaying a strategic map of known space. Conflict zones glowed red, peaceful regions shone blue, and in between, countless points of potential friction sparkled in warning yellow. 20 years ago, this map was predominantly red, Lyra continued. Today, over 70% of known space exists in a state of stable peace. The catalyst for this change wasn't a breakthrough in diplomatic theory or a sudden outbreak of interstellar goodwill. It was humanity's introduction to galactic politics. A quantum consciousness representative, their former shifting cloud of probability patterns, pulsed with skepticism. How does a species known for its warfare capability facilitate peace? This seems contradictory. Lyra's bioluminescence flickered with what might have been amusement. "Let me show you." She brought up footage from the Rigel border dispute, a conflict that had threatened to engulf 3 major stellar empires in war. The hologram showed human diplomatic vessels arriving at the conflict zone. But unlike traditional diplomatic ships, these were modified battle cruisers. The humans called them peace enforcers, heavily armed vessels painted pristine white with clear markings in every known language declaring their neutral status. "This is where it gets interesting," Lyra explained. "The humans didn't just position themselves between the warring parties. They did something unprecedented. They invited each side to attack them first." The chamber erupted in murmurs of confusion. A mechanoid collective representative's optical sensors flashed in binary patterns of disbelief. This defies diplomatic protocols. Peacekeepers are supposed to maintain neutrality through non-engagement. "Exactly," Lyra responded. "But humans understood something we didn't. Sometimes the best way to prevent a fight is to become a more tempting target than your intended opponent." The hologram showed Captain Sarah Morrison of the Peace Enforcer Diplomatic Solution, addressing the 3 fleets. "We understand you all want to fight. That's fine. But understand this, if you choose war, you fight us first. We won't take sides. We'll simply ensure that anyone who fires the first shot regrets that decision immediately and permanently." "This is what we now call the human paradox of peace," Lyra continued. "They maintain peace not through traditional diplomatic means, but by making warfare so personally costly that diplomatic solutions become the only rational choice." The display shifted to show various human peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. In each case, their ships were the most heavily armed vessels present, their crews the most combat-ready. Yet they never initiated conflicts. They simply ensured that starting one would be suicidal. But the true genius of their approach, Lyra noted, her patterns shifting to indicate deep appreciation, lies in what they do after preventing conflicts. The humans don't just enforce peace, they make it profitable. The hologram showed the aftermath of the Rigel border dispute. The human peacekeepers had established trade routes through the contested space, created joint mining operations that benefited all parties, and implemented what they called mutually assured prosperity. They understood something fundamental about sentient nature, Lyra explained. Fear of destruction might prevent war temporarily, but the promise of profit prevents it permanently. They turned potential battlegrounds into economic partnerships. A particularly striking example appeared: the Perseus Trade Corridor, once a region of constant warfare, now the galaxy's most profitable trade route. Human peacekeepers patrolled its length, their weapons primed but never fired, their very presence ensuring that commerce flowed uninterrupted. But here's what truly sets human diplomatic efforts apart, Lyra continued. They created the emergency response doctrine. Any species that signs the Galactic Peace Accord can request immediate human military intervention if attacked by an aggressor. This means that the smallest, weakest worlds now have humanity's full military might as their guarantor of peace. The chamber displayed footage from the Epsilon incident, where a single human battle group had responded to a distress call from a minor agricultural world under attack by pirates. The response was swift, overwhelming, and incredibly precise. The pirates were neutralized without a single civilian casualty. The humans have a saying, Lyra noted: speak softly and carry a big stick. They've modified this philosophy for galactic diplomacy: negotiate fairly and maintain overwhelming defensive capability. But the most fascinating aspect of human diplomatic influence appeared in the cultural impact data. Species that had been traditional enemies for millennia were now engaging in cultural exchanges, joint scientific ventures, and even interspecies marriage, all under the watchful eye of human peacekeepers. They've created what they call Pax Humana, Lyra explained. Not peace through conquest or domination, but peace through the absolute certainty that starting a war will be more costly than any potential gains. They've made peace the profitable choice. The display showed the latest statistics. Interstellar trade had increased by 300% since humans began their peacekeeping operations. Diplomatic incidents had decreased by 78%. Even minor border skirmishes had become rare, as potential aggressors had to consider whether their objectives were worth attracting human attention. But perhaps most remarkably, Lyra concluded, they've done all this while remaining technically neutral. They don't take sides in conflicts. They simply ensure that conflicts don't escalate. They don't impose their will on other species. They just make peace more attractive than war. The Chamber's final display showed humanity's latest diplomatic innovation, the Galactic Peace Academy, where species from across known space could learn human methods of conflict resolution and peacekeeping. We feared they would destroy civilization, Lyra said, her patterns now glowing with bright optimism. Instead, they've become its guardians. Not through overwhelming force, though they possess it, but through making peace more profitable than war. They've turned their understanding of warfare into a tool for preventing it. As the presentation concluded, a junior diplomat raised an interesting point. But isn't this just another form of warfare, using the threat of superior force to maintain order? Lyra's response captured the essence of humanity's unique approach. The humans would agree with you. They don't claim to have eliminated warfare, they've just changed its nature. In their view, peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of better alternatives. And they've become masters at creating those alternatives. The Galactic Security Council's inner sanctum, hidden within a neutron star's coronosphere, represented the highest level of classified information in known space. Today, High Administrator Solak, the last surviving member of the original contact team that first encountered humans, was about to reveal the truth that had shaped galactic policy for the past century. The assembled council members, representing the 100 most powerful civilizations in known space, watched as Solak's crystalline form approached the quantum podium. His surface reflected the light of 1 billion stars, each facet holding memories of humanity's impact on the galaxy. "What I'm about to share," Solak began, his voice resonating through quantum channels, "has been classified as Omega-level information. It explains not just why we fear human warfare, but why we orchestrated the greatest deception in galactic history to keep humanity exactly as they are." The chamber's reality engines activated, creating a perfect simulation of Earth's solar system. But this wasn't the Earth of today. It was Earth from 50 years ago, during what humans called the First Contact War. "You all know the official history," Solak continued, "how a primitive human military somehow defeated our advanced scout fleet, leading to our current policy of military containment. That history is a lie we crafted with extraordinary care, because the truth is far more terrifying." The simulation zoomed in on the battle, but this time showing what really happened. The council members watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. "We didn't lose that battle," Solak revealed. "We surrendered, not because we had to, but because we glimpsed something that shook our understanding of warfare to its core. We saw humanity's true potential." The simulation showed the human response to the scout fleet's arrival. While other species had reacted with either panic or aggression when first contacted, humans displayed something unprecedented: simultaneous, contradictory responses across their entire population. "Some humans wanted peace," Solak explained. "Others prepared for war. Some tried to communicate, while others developed weapons. Some proposed surrender, while others planned resistance. But here's what terrified us. All of these responses were coordinated without any central control. Humans were capable of pursuing every possible strategy simultaneously." The display shifted to show human military installations worldwide. Each one had developed different approaches to the same threat, creating a defense network that was inherently unpredictable. "We realized that humanity wasn't just another warrior species," Solak continued. "They were something we'd never encountered before, a civilization of individuals who could think and act independently while maintaining collective effectiveness. Our predictive engines, capable of calculating the outcomes of wars across thousands of worlds, simply crashed when trying to analyze human response patterns." A council member from the Quantum Collective interrupted, their probability field fluctuating with disbelief. "But surely their technological limitations was self-imposed," Solak finished. "That's the second part of our great deception. Humans weren't primitive. They were holding back. Watch." The simulation showed classified footage of human quantum physics experiments, consciousness transfer research, and weapons development programs that had been deliberately abandoned. Humans had discovered principles of physics we hadn't even theorized. They had weapons capabilities that could have rivaled our most advanced systems, but they chose not to develop them, not out of fear or inability, but because they understood something fundamental about warfare that we didn't. The display showed Dr. Emily Chen, a human quantum physicist, explaining why she had abandoned her research into consciousness weapons. "Just because we can build something doesn't mean we should. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is the one you choose not to create." This, Solak explained, is why we crafted the lie. We made humanity believe they were technological underdogs, that their victory over our scout fleet was a miracle of innovation and determination. We needed them to maintain that mindset, the mindset of the perpetual underdog. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. A representative from the Strategic Planning Collective voiced the obvious question: why encourage them to think they're weaker than they are? Solak's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been grim amusement. Because humans are at their most dangerous when they think they're at a disadvantage. Their innovation, their creativity, their sheer determination, All of it peaks when they believe they're the underdogs. The simulation showed various human military engagements over the past 50 years. In each case, humans had developed solutions that defied conventional military logic, precisely because they believed they were working with inferior technology. We didn't just contain human warfare, Solak revealed. We channeled it. The peacekeepers, the diplomatic interventions, even the Guardian AA incident, all of it was guided by our carefully crafted deception. We needed humanity to remain creative, innovative, and most importantly, morally conscious. The display showed the classified metrics that the Council had been tracking: human innovation rates, military effectiveness, diplomatic success, and most crucially, that ethical development. But here's the true purpose of our deception, Solak continued. We're not containing humanity to protect the galaxy from them. We're preserving them to protect the galaxy through them. They are our ultimate deterrent against the real threats that lurk in the dark spaces between galaxies. The simulation showed long-range scans of approaching dangers, hive minds vast enough to devour solar systems, quantum entities that could rewrite reality, and horrors that defy description in any known language. Humanity isn't just our defensive line, Solak explained. They're our secret weapon, a species that can outthink the unthinkable, that can find solutions where none should exist, that can turn defeat into victory through sheer creativity and determination. We keep them precisely as they are, innovative, adaptable, and believing they're the underdogs, because that's when they're most effective. The final display showed the classified contingency plans, the Omega protocols that would be activated if the galaxy faced extinction-level threats. In every scenario, humanity was the linchpin of survival. The humans have a concept called breaking the fourth wall, becoming aware of a greater context that changes everything. Today, we've broken our own fourth wall. We maintain the illusion of human technological inferiority, not out of fear, but out of necessity. They are our guardians, our innovators, our warriors, but they can only fulfill that role if they never realize their true potential. Solak's final revelation stunned even the most seasoned council members. The greatest war humanity ever fought was the one we prevented them from winning too easily. Their first contact with us wasn't a test of their military might, it was a test of their character. And they proved themselves to be exactly what the galaxy needed: a species that could face the impossible with innovation, face horror with courage, and face power with wisdom. As the council session concluded, Solak added one final thought. We fear human warfare not because of what they can do to us, but because of what they might stop doing for us if they ever realize their true role. They are the galaxy's immune system, its creative force, its guardians against the unknown. And as long as they believe they're the underdogs, fighting against impossible odds, they will continue to be our greatest hope for survival. The council chambers fell silent as the implications sank in. The greatest deception in galactic history wasn't about containing a dangerous species. It was about preserving humanity exactly as they were, creative, determined, and always ready to face impossible odds with impossible solutions. In the end, the galaxy didn't fear human warfare because of its destructive potential. They feared the day humans might stop being humanity's best version of themselves, the eternal underdogs who never learned how to accept defeat.